Good evening. It's 6 p.m. So I will now call this February 27th, 2024 regular meeting of the Wenatchee School District School Board to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Esta junta se lleva a cabo en inglés, pero contamos con servicio de traducción si alguien gusta hacer un comentario público o recibir explicaciones en español. Por favor, indique su necesidad. We will now work through the agenda. Are there any proposed changes or modifications to the agenda? Hearing none. We will begin with the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda were sent to the board and posted online last week. The board's had an opportunity to review the material and individually ask the superintendent any questions on any item on the agenda. The consent agenda for this meeting consists of the minutes from the February 12th, 2024 board workshop, February 13th, 2024 special meeting, February 13th, 2024 regular meeting, vouchers and payroll, the personnel report, surplus report, contracts, policy updates that are non-substantive, requests for field trips, the December 23 financial report, the January 2024 financial report, and the February 2024 enrollment report. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved by Maria, seconded by Martin. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We will now move on to citizen comment. If any member of the public would like to make a citizen comment, we ask that you please sign up online 15 minutes before the meeting or in person. There are paper forms available at the entrance to the meeting room and can be completed and given to the board secretary, Kim White, who's seated in the back. Unless translation is required, each comment is limited to 3 minutes, and Ms. White will keep a timer that will notify you when your time expires. It will give notice at the 1 minute mark, the 30-second mark, and the time is up mark. Individuals that need translation services will be given up to 7 minutes to make their comments. And to assist our Spanish-speaking citizens with public comment, the district has partnered with CAFE to provide professional certified interpretation services for our next several board meetings and for the public hearing regarding the possible closure of Columbia Elementary. So we want to thank CAFE for their continued partnership with the school district. We also have headsets available that will translate all English speaking and public comments into Spanish. So please feel free to use one of the headsets on the back table. Due to the number of people signed up to make a public comment this evening, the board would like to request that if the theme of your comment has already been expressed before your opportunity to speak, that you keep your comments as short as possible to allow everyone who wishes to participate the opportunity to do so. Please also be aware the board is not obligated to respond to questions or challenges made during public comment, and the board's silence will not signal agreement or endorsement of the speaker's remarks. We know that many of you are here and will continue to be here regarding the potential consolidation of our elementary schools. You should also be aware that the district is holding at least 2 public hearings during the 90-day period per RCW 28A 335-020 and Board Policy 6883 that allows for testimony from the public on any school closure before a final decision is made. Those hearings are going to be on March 21st and April 18th at the Wenatchee High School Commons. More information to follow. The board appreciates you being here this evening and would like to remind you that all public comments should adhere to the same standard of civility that the board imposes on itself, and the board will exercise its authority to maintain order in a content-neutral manner this evening. So with that being said, Kim, do we have any public comments tonight?
Yes, we do. Our first one is online comment. John Price the 4th.
All right, can you hear me? Awesome, thank you. I want to thank the school board and cabinet for listening tonight. This is my 12th year teaching and my 3rd year in Wenatchee at Columbia Elementary. I wanted to start by talking about low-income students. During my first few years of teaching, before our state raise, my grade level teammates' children, they counted toward our school's low-income student count. His children living in a 2-parent house they own, that's a lot different than a single mother living at a hotels, a family staying with their relatives, moving apartment to apartment or house to house. And I just want to say low-income students are not all the same. And then I wanted to move on to attendance. This was taken from OSPI state report cards. 64% of Columbia Elementary students attended 90% or more of school. That is the lowest in the district's elementary schools. We rely on students being able to walk to school. Many students are tardy, and they would be absent if they were expected to catch a bus. And then I wanted to talk about social emotional learning. Lincoln is expected to increase to roughly 600 students. Washington is expected to increase to the upper 500s. A comment was made that the schools were built for 600 students. Students are just a lot different than they were 10 years ago. Students have a lot more social emotional needs and mental health needs. More time is spent counseling students. Executive functioning development has drastically decreased, and it is greatly impeding students and their ability to learn. I come from a district where my school averaged 650 plus students. We ended up hiring a second counselor to help better support our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jessica O'Connor, then Roxana Vanetta.
Hello, my name is Jessica. I have lived in Wenatchee for the past 20 years, my entire adult life. 18 of those years just down the road. My Irish twins, Stacy and Patrick, my only children, are the reason I am here tonight, a little more prepared than last time. This is my first time having any personal experience with Wenatchee School District and the school board. And to be honest, my trust and confidence has been shaken, and I'm not sure how to go about giving it back. Well, the transparency that us parents have requested has not been given over the last month and a half. Stacy, my 5-year-old, she's a kindergartner in Miss Salgada's class. Her growth, both educational, interpersonal communications, has exceeded all my expectations. But since the closure was announced, and I say closure because that's how you guys said it, she's struggled every day. She worries where her teacher will go, where her friends will go, and what about her little brother who's supposed to go there next year? I have to remind her every night that she's going to go to Columbia for a few more months at least, sis. These are all the things a 5-year-old shouldn't have to worry about. She should be worrying about what toys she's going to play when she gets home, or the fact that she's doing great in school. She can count by tens. She reads every sign when we're driving by. She couldn't read any words. She couldn't even write her name when she started school this year. My 4-year-old Patrick, he has no idea what's going on, and I'm honestly really grateful for that. He should be playing in dirt and Legos right now. Patrick and Stacy both have IEPs that started last year in preschool, IEPs that will follow them for some time. 20.6% of students at Columbia have IEPs. Columbia has the highest percent of elementary students with IEPs. And as a parent of one current cougar and one next year, I have a very little correspondence from anybody regarding the closure or possible closure, the reassignment, where my children will go, where they're being absorbed, the bus routes, walking routes. Are the routes even safe? How safe are they? And it's not really next year, it's in 6 months. Lincoln and Washington, their parents, they got emails, blooms, text messages, probably postal letters regarding the changes of their principals. We've barely had any communication. Most of the communication has been seen from the newspapers. And I saw the maps that some parents got. They make no sense to us. I just wish we could all get the same treatment, communication standards, the same level of respect, the social media, the Facebook coverage, everything. Our school hasn't been mentioned on one post of your guys on the social media page. One post since all of this. How and why would we have new and incoming students get enrolled when their parents do not trust the members? How are we going to pass levies to get more money to our school when our parents don't trust the members? How and why are our children paying for your and your friends' bad handling of money? I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
I'm just going to translate what Julie said briefly. Si alguien necesita servicios de traducción, hay audífonos en la parte de atrás para que puedan oír al señor Alfonso.
Hello, my name's Roxana Veneta. A teacher librarian at Columbia Elementary. I came to this country when I was 10 years old. It took me a few years of learning and acquiring English and some major confidence to utter those first few words. I can remember that clearly. I never wanted to be made fun of, and even as a teacher, my English is not produced correctly some days. Hold on, I got lost. I do let my students know, though, they are always gracious, and some understand that feeling all too well. I remember the days I had to translate for my parents, not knowing some of those words here or there. And truly, I wasn't equipped to do so, nor did I want to make mistakes either way. Our Columbia monolingual parents deserve to be properly informed with all this information of the possible school closure. I'm here to advocate, support, and stand with monolingual and bilingual parents who have not been given a transparent opportunity to know what is going on with Columbia's possible closure, but rather they have read it on Bloom's, Facebook, or word of mouth, and yet have never been addressed personally or even worked with. You're not doing this with them. You are doing this to them. We didn't take a Hippocratic oath, that is, teachers. However, education is political and not neutral. I stand here advocating for parents who seek the cabinet of Wenatchee School District to come talk to them about closure, budget analysis, and the many uncertainties that you can answer as best as you can with appropriate translation services according to the law. A civil rights law. Letters sound appropriate and would be a routine, but what about centering the community of students and their families? What about acknowledging the fact that some parents may not know how to read in English or Spanish? I remember having a conversation with you, Corey. You guys, the school district, seek family engagement. Are you building those bridges or are you tearing them down? It takes deliberate and intentional work to do so, but when we do not use appropriate channels and neglect what we have written in the Big Six, then we are creating barriers that have not been present in the education, that have been present in the educational system. And these barriers pose a threat to educational justice and educational equity. I'm going to finish with a quote from Paulo Freire and the Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Education must be centered upon developing critically conscious, humanized learners who act to liberate themselves and the world from injustice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Emily Bjork and then Karina Arce.
Hello, good evening. My name is Emily Bjork. Tonight I wanted to highlight some significant concerns related to the safety of our Columbia children if they are reassigned to either Washington or Lincoln elementaries. One, I could not find any documentation that would indicate the Wenatchee School District requested advice from the city of Wenatchee on its proposed safe walking routes. It is very concerning as part of Okanagan Avenue, where our children would walk, does not even have sidewalks on both sides of the street. We know from experience walking to school the last 2 years that sometimes you need to cross the street to safely proceed from school, whether that be from aggressive dogs or parked cars on the sidewalk. Lighting along Okanagan Avenue and other city streets on these safe walking routes is low. Without involving the city of Wenatchee in planning of these new routes, we will likely be sending our children out on their walk with the increased risk that cars will not see them or that they will be less likely to see hazards along the way. Number 3, a good majority of children who walk to school with these proposed changes will have to cross large streets that are major thoroughfares. With many people using these routes to commute to get to work, to get to Pioneer Middle School or to the high school, we are significantly concerned that proper safety protocols will not be in place for elementary students before the start of the 24-25 school year. I could also not find any analysis on what changes will be implemented prior to the start of the 24-25 school year to improve commute safety for our children. The Washington State Department of Transportation recommends school administration work with local city and county planners to identify new developments, road construction projects, and pedestrian improvement plans along the walk routes. This work should be done well in advance of any proposed modification on school walking routes. 5, without proper analysis of these safe walking routes, our children and families will be at significantly higher risk for severe injury or fatality. The current proposals will increase the strain on school staff and parents during drop-off and pickup. We have yet to see any written analysis from the Wenatchee School District that addresses this increased volume of students in relation to transportation. I could also not find any documentation from the Wenatchee School District regarding consultation with Wenatchee Emergency Services to address how the increased size in student population at both Washington and Lincoln will impact their emergency planning. It is unfortunate that we even have to think about significant emergencies in our schools, but this is the reality we live in, and the community has the right to know that this has been addressed well in advance prior to filling these 2 schools to capacity. I appreciate you taking the time to review these concerns and request that the proposed closure of Columbia Elementary be stopped. School Board Policy number 6605 states the superintendent will establish a safety advisory committee, yet this has not been performed. The Wenatchee School District has not put together a cohesive, comprehensive, or proactive plan on how it will address these and many other concerns brought forward by the public. The people of Wenatchee deserve better for their children. I did print 1 copy, and I have some photos of my concerns along Okanagan Avenue where there's no sidewalk, as well as a copy of the walking routes we received from the school that has no key and indication as to what the arrows mean. So I'll just hand that to you, Miranda, and you can share it.
Thank you.
Right here, child. Thank you. My name is Karina. I have a kindergartner at the Columbia Elementary. Voy a empezar en español. Solo tengo algunas preguntas por ahora, aunque nos han dicho que no nos van a contestar. Quiero saber por qué el superintendente dice públicamente que la escuela de Columbia se va a cerrar si estuviera el error presupuestario o no. Kelleher ha dicho públicamente que el objetivo es alinear el personal que tienen de más al problema que tienen de inscripción en las escuelas, que es enorme y que es masivo. Así que haya o no haya un error presupuestario, estaríamos en esta situación todavía, debido a la disminución de la inscripción de los estudiantes. Otras cosas, simplemente sigue diciendo, simplemente continúa porque no sabemos dónde está el piso y en el que sigue los estudiantes sin pasar. ¿Cuánta consolidación van a ocupar para solucionar el mal presupuesto que tienen? Porque por ahora, sorry. No necesito porque cuando lo dicen en inglés y en español, la mitad de las cosas no las dice. He doesn't say half of the stuff. And when the Spanish translator says the things, she also doesn't say half of the stuff. And it's a bunch of ums and uhs. So if she's going to and through it, then I'll and through it myself. So, dijo, error o no, cerramos, ¿verdad? O no dijo? In English now, I only have a few questions, even though we've been told over and over again that you aren't going to answer us. Why is Superintendent saying publicly that Columbia would be closing whether or not there was a budget error? Kelleher has publicly said that our goal is to align our staffing to our enrollment, and the problem is huge and it's massive. So whether or not there was a one-time budgeting error, we would still be in the situation because of the declining enrollment, blah, blah, blah. He just keeps going because we don't know where the floor is, and the decline that we're experiencing now, we would need to consolidate our resources each and every year. How much consolidated do you need? But the big picture isn't about that, right? You said error or not, right? That's what you said. I'm not sure who has, no estoy segura quién tiene las respuestas a las preguntas en las que están en el sitio de la escuela, pero cuando preguntaron que por qué no podíamos redistribuir las líneas de las escuelas, am I going to get more time since I have to translate for myself? Thank you. Pero cuando preguntaron que por qué no iban a redibujar las líneas, alguien dijo que no podíamos porque estuviéramos distribuyendo los mismos estudiantes. Todavía estuviera el exceso de personal a los estudiantes que hacen falta. Pero si no me equivoco, cierren o no cierren la escuela, nos queda el mismo número de estudiantes. ¿Por qué no, en vez, adoptar como están haciendo en la escuela secundaria y en la middle school, que es un cambio y una redirección de las cosas, a diferencia a los planes que tienen a nuestra escuela primaria, que es un corte y eliminación total? Y eso solo este año. ¿Cuál escuela sigue el año que entra? I'm not sure who has input into the Q&A available on the district site, but when asked why the redrawing was a no-go, someone answered with, we would simply be spreading around the same number of students. Still overstaffed for our enrollment, but correct me if I'm wrong, closure or no closure, we're still left with the same number of students. Why not take a similar approach that you're taking to the high school and the middle schools, which sounds more like a shuffle and a redirect, unlike the plans for our elementary school, which sounds like a whole chop off and get rid of. And that's just this year. What school will be on the chopping block next year? La Escuela de Colombia es una de las únicas que no tiene transportación, con la excepción de los estudiantes que tienen necesidades especiales. Al tomar los más de 300 niños que tenemos en las escuelas, ¿cuánto transporte van a tener que agregar para llevarlos a las escuelas nuevas? ¿O están contando simplemente con que la mayoría de esos niños estén dentro de la distancia segura para caminar? Y tomaron en cuenta que la cantidad de los niños que caminan solos, porque los padres no tienen otra opción. Tienen en cuenta que las caminatas de los niños van a ser de 2 a 3 cuadras, van a cambiar a 4 o 5 cuadras. Y algunos de esos niños van a tener que cruzar las calles principales. Miller y Washington son calles con mucho tránsito y muy pocas áreas de cruzar. Y la Ferry es igual o peor. Alguien dice que ¿por qué los niños de la escuela primaria están caminando solos? ¿Qué privilegio tienen de no tener que hacer eso? No todos somos tan afortunados. Columbia is one of our walking-only schools, with the exception that our special needs students get bused. And in taking our over 300 kids and dividing them up into 2 schools, which you've already said, how much transportation does that add? To me, that sounds like you're adding to the spending instead of saving money. Or are you simply counting with the majority of those kids to fall within the safe walking distance that you proposed? Did you take into account the amount of kids that walk alone, whose parents have no other option? Did you factor in that their walks are going to turn from a 2 to 3 block walk to a 4 to 5 block walk? And some of these kids have to cross major streets. Miller and Washington are high traffic areas with very few crossing areas. And I'm pretty sure Ferry is just as bad. And anyone saying, well, elementary age kids shouldn't be walking alone, your privilege is showing and you should do better. I'm not putting my kids on the link trust.
Thank you. Yvonne Ramos and Dorothy Ferguson.
So I was planning on speaking and a part of me doesn't want to. Today I heard some news from one of my favorite teachers and I just want to know personally, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us do, why is it that it's our kids and our staff that have to suffer the consequences that you guys as the district made? Why? Is it fair to us? Is it fair to my kids? Is it fair to our staff? No, you're basically telling them, you're bad. You did something wrong. When we didn't, our kids didn't, our staff didn't. You guys as a unit, you guys did, not us. And with that, you guys will probably lose my kids in this district and many others too. So.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Ferguson. I live in Wenatchee. I'm a grandmother of 2 students who attend Wenatchee schools. I first want to thank you for tackling this complex problem. You are our community members, our neighbors, our friends, and I thank you for your service. We appreciate the time and energy you're dedicating to solve complex problems. Every person in this room is passionate about children's education, and we may see things differently. I've been thinking, what is the board's first basic responsibility? I didn't know, so I looked it up in the school board policies. I found the board's operating policies are those the board adopts to facilitate the performance of its responsibilities. The board exercises powers expressly required and implied by law. So it seems the first responsibility of the board is to follow its adopted school board policies. So my question is then, what happens when any employee of the district, an interim superintendent, a teacher, anybody does not follow the adopted board policies? The board policy on closure of facilities was not followed by the interim superintendent. These actions deprive students and parents of due process. Parents have an expectation that all district employee and the board will follow the adopted policies. So what does the school board do when an employee has violated the school board policies? Do they stop the actions of the employee who's violating the board policy? Do they address the violation? Do they sweep the violation under the rug? Do they pretend it didn't happen? Tell the community members the violation is unfortunate? Do they continue with the original haphazard plan, full steam ahead, despite significant concerns by parents about their children's safety and education? Enrollment's not the only problem that the Wenatchee School District has. They have a history of ignoring violations of the board policy, state and federal laws. There's a $4 million judgment for civil rights Title IX violation we're paying for. There's a $9 million error of 2022. There's a $700,000 expense for compensatory education. That's a year for compensatory education for a student due to a violation of due process, possibly costing the district more than $7 million over the next decade. And there's a Title IX civil rights complaint that's being prepared for interpretation and translation. When will the school board establish a culture in administration that respects and enforces school board policy, state and federal laws? How many more violations of students and parents' due process can the district afford? The Columbia Parent Advocacy Group demanded that the school board establish a citizens advisory committee regarding budgets and the budget reduction process and school closure. We had to demand because when we asked nicely, we were ignored. The school board president denied our request. I have one more sentence. The Columbia Parent Advocacy Group is the most dedicated group I have ever been involved with. They are prepared to take this all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm not kidding. If necessary, to protect students, parents, and parents' due process rights. I'm retired. I have a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Lois Ferguson and Lexi Arce.
I'm Lois Ferguson. I live in Wenatchee. You know my sister Dorothy. She's the nice one. I have 2 great nephews who attend Wenatchee schools. I started volunteering in kindergarten class this year. I'd like to thank each of you for your service on the school board. I avoid public speaking at all costs, but I feel strongly that the students and parents have been treated poorly by the Wenatchee School District, so here I am. I want to share my observations about the closing of Columbia Elementary. From the little that I know, it appears that the decision to close Columbia was made by the district cabinet before January 19th, 2024. The decision to close Columbia was announced to teachers at Columbia by the interim superintendent Kalahar on January 19th, 2024. The next day, the district posted on their website The announcement that Columbia Elementary was closing in June, it was a done deal. Then a month after the decision was announced, the school board started the 90-day period for public comment. The district is asking Columbia students and teachers to take one for the team. I want to know what the district office administrators and cabinet are willing to give up for the team. With fewer students, it would seem you would need fewer district directors. Those positions could be consolidated to save money. From what I see, the district's actions now are to cover up their mistakes and push ahead with their original plan. Despite significant community concerns expressed to the district and the school board. Parents are concerned about their child's safety walking to the new school. Parents are concerned about their child's education at the new schools, since Lincoln and Washington schools will be overcrowded, while 3 of the other elementaries have empty classrooms. In the end, I hope you do what is right by the children and parents of Columbia, Lincoln, and Washington schools. But from what I've seen so far, I'm not very hopeful.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lexi Arce, and before I start, I just like to add that I used to attend Orchard Middle School, and the amount of times I almost got hit by a car crossing that crosswalk. It has lights. It has a noise, so they stop and they don't. Yep. Just to let you know, these are elementary schoolers that are trying to make dangerous crosswalks. My little sister goes to Columbia Elementary School. Every day she's so excited to go to school and see her friends. Every day she hangs out with them. If you close Columbia, who is she going to hang out with? When she first joined, she was scared. She didn't usually feel comfortable around people, so her being able to make friends here was amazing. She was able to connect with the teachers here. We are trying to move her to a new school where she'll be forced to make new friends. Because we don't get a say in what happens, they get moved. Or we don't get a say in where they get moved to. She'll have to start all over again. My main concern is why the board's answer is always Columbia is the smallest school, no matter what the question is. That's always their answer. Or how they always say there are 9 empty classrooms at Columbia, but there's not. I talked to a teacher here, and she said all the classrooms are being used. Another person said that they were used for small groups and student resources, etc. If you move these kids to another school, where are these student resources and small groups going to happen? Imagine for a moment that you're a student in TK through 4th. How would you feel if you had to go through what you're putting or trying to put these kids through? The interim superintendent is always changing his story, so we're not even getting clear information. There is so much misinformation that I don't even know what else to write here. Besides that, we aren't getting a say in what happens. I bet if you asked half the kids that go here, if they knew what was happening, most would be clueless. The staff is trying their best, trying the best they can to give them the information they have. But it's so unclear that they don't even know half of what's happening. So please, let us as students, teachers, parents, and adults have a say in the decision, or at least have clear information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kyle Diaz.
Good evening. I would like to voice my concerns about the plans and information that has been shared with the community after the potential closure of Columbia Elementary announcement. So far during this period of planning for next year, I am convinced the school district only plans to save money and took the first idea that was presented, then ran with it without considering other factors. The district has released plans to us parents that are unfinished, vague, and or not considerate of our perception. The family slated for Lincoln received what looked like a bus map without legend or instructions, just yellow and green arrows on the new boundary. Then there's my household. We received our letter today about plans to attend Washington, and my children's bus stop will be on the corner of 3rd and Pennsylvania. The park on the corner is known for loitering, drug use, and violence. Is this a modified bus stop location, or is it currently being used? How has the district determined this is a safe location for my children to be picked up and dropped off? Why would the district release new bus routes before determining Columbia's definite closure? If Columbia does not close, it will cause a lot of confusion and makes it seem like your plans to close the school are concrete. The way the Wenatchee School District is handling this has not reflected any confidence from the community. Has the district done an analysis on how this decision will impact their enrollment numbers? When the district presented the new total students at each school, was this including the potential students you won't be getting back? Lastly, members of the board, how will this decision affect your votes the next time your name is on the pamphlet? Thank you.
Thank you. Bonifacio Moreno.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Bonifacio Moreno. Estoy aquí representando a mi nieta, Eli Moreno.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bonifacio
Bonifacio Moreno.
Moreno, and I'm here to represent my granddaughter in first grade.
Lo que no entiendo por qué están con esa necesidad de querer cerrar Colombia, la escuela Colombia. Bien de pensar el distrito escolar en los niños. Pienso que no sé si tendrán la cabeza en otro lado, porque pues hay muchas escuelas que hay menos niños. En Colombia hay más, hay Stanislaus, la escuela de Stanislaus que tiene menos niños que Colombia.
I don't know why you guys want to go close Columbia when there's a lot of kids to think about. So if Columbia seems to be a small school, but Sunny Slope seems to be a smaller school.
Okay, supuestamente no sé cuál es la razón de quererla cerrar, si será dinero, porque he escuchado mucha gente que se desaparecieron $7 millones. Yo no sé si el del distrito, no estoy muy seguro, yo nomás he escuchado.
I'm not sure if the school is closing due to funding, but he has been hearing some comments that there has been some money, about $7 million, and he was just wondering about that.
Yo quisiera saber dónde ha quedado todo ese dinero, porque pues si esa es la razón por qué quieren cerrar la escuela, ¿por qué no hacen una cosa así de que regresen el dinero a las escuelas, así para que tengan más dinero para los maestros, para arreglar la escuela? Porque arreglaron la escuela Washington, ¿por qué no arreglar la Colombia?
So maybe some options would be doing like a fundraiser to go ahead and raise that money. ¿Qué dijo de la-
¿Por qué arreglar la escuela Washington bien arreglada? Le gastaron mucho dinero. ¿Por qué no hacen algo con la escuela Colombia?
It looks like a Washington school was remodeled, and he's just wondering why Columbia hasn't gotten some money.
Ok, eso es todo lo que tengo que decir y espero, porque van a dividir a los niños. Usted, el distrito escolar no sabe por los problemas que van a pasar los niños. Los están dividiendo. Ellos ahorita tienen sus amiguitos. En otra escuela a lo mejor vayan a hacerles bullying. Los niños no van a querer ir a la escuela, no van a estar a gusto y pienso que no es bueno para ellos. Es una cosa que no sé cómo explicarlo, la verdad, pero
This is mostly everything I'm about to say, but definitely I would just think about the kids. They're going to go ahead and get bullied in different schools. They have to go ahead and start from zero and start making new friends. So that's all for today.
no, pero quisiera que a un niño de ustedes les hicieran eso. ¿Les gustaría? No creo. Es todo. Muchas gracias.
Would you like of any of your children to go through this? I don't think so. That's all for tonight. Thank you so much.
Gracias.
Thank you. That's all we have for tonight.
All right. Thank you. So next on the agenda, we have our special presentations. Do we want to do the softball update first, or do we have ASB?
Well, let's see here. Well, we can start off with, Rob, do you mind if we do our ASB updates really quick? Okay, I just want to make sure that if we have some students from Wenatchee High School that are prepared to do the ASB update for us tonight? No? Okay, I know we have some students here, but they're from the Superintendent's Advisory Council. Do we have anyone from Westside High School this evening for a ASB update? Okay, all right. And I'll mention one thing that's on the agenda really quick, and then we'll have Rob and his gang pop up there. The Educational Support Professionals Week we had on the agenda, we have until the week of the 11th for Educational Support Professionals Week. So I'll wait to share the governor's proclamation until our March 12th board meeting. But we're just preparing our system for Educational Support Professionals Week and all of the amazing work that happens in the Wenatchee School District therein. So just wanted to mention that since it's on the agenda. And our softball presentation, Rob, thank you. Tonight we have our softball team, our project team led by Rob Gross, and he has John Minder from Turner Townsend and Curie, along with some friends from Bernardo Wills, and Bill LaRue is with us today. So come on up. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
You bet, my pleasure. So tonight we're just going to give an overview and an update on where the status of our design and our future schedule of the bidding process, and also acceptance of a contractor, and our schedule to get started.
Liz, do we have the clicker? He's got it.
There you
Rob
go.
got it. He's got the power.
And John's got the power tonight. So we want to give a little project update on stuff that has been accomplished the last 6 to 7 weeks. And we're going to go through, Bill's going to share kind of what everything is going to look like and where we settled on kind of the project design status and our final design, and update us on where we're at with the city and a few other items that Bill's going to share. So during the last 6 or 7 weeks, we've completed a traffic impact study that was required by the city. All came back positive, and we're not going to have any type of use change, so that helped. We also interviewed several turf vendors, artificial turf vendors, and looked at their products and kind of their company status. And one of the big things that we looked at was, if we order this turf, sometimes with everyone's worried about lead times, we found that we can get anything within 30 to 45 days. So that's good. So that's going to meet our schedule. We've submitted our permit. We submitted the documents for permitting, and we're waiting back for some comments, but that shouldn't hold us up for any kind of start date that we will kind of address later in the presentation. We have assembled all our project documents and our bid documents and an advertisement that's going to be going out here in March. And we usually have to have we're required to have it on, we call it on the street or in the papers for 2.5 weeks, which will allude us to a bid opening that we will send some more information about. So if anyone wanted to attend, it's kind of a fun process to go through. And ultimately, from the start, our tentative date is the 1st of April. And with that, I will bring Mr. Bill LaRue up from Bernardo Wills. He's our landscape architect and architectural firm that's done all the design.
Hi, I'm the project manager for the project on the architectural side. So we have a few images here of what the project's going to look like. So we kicked this project off back in November. We had a charrette where we met with a bunch of different stakeholders, coaches, athletic director, everybody. And developed a program that we were able to develop the project. So really the project is a softball complex and a varsity, it's a girls varsity softball field. There are some associated fields with it. So there's a couple of soccer fields to the north. And then there's the soccer field off to the right side of the softball field is actually the PE field. So those are all part of the same complex. The softball field itself will be a synthetic turf field similar to what the baseball field is. And some of these elements in this project are meant to resolve some Title IX issues. So a lot of the things that we're looking at are trying to provide similar products and features that the boys would have. So some of the things that we looked at was the boys' facilities to try and match how the girls' facility might look. So the field itself is synthetic turf. We've got some, you can see on the back fence there, those are opportunities for branding for the high school. This field has, in the foreground, you can see the batting cage, and there's a couple of dugouts you can see. Those dugouts would be CMU block. There would be a press box with about 100 seats for seating behind the backstop. And then also in yellow, you can see kind of a gateway to the facility. And one of the things that we were challenged with at the beginning of this project was we wanted to try and make the facility look like a stadium. So to really have that stadium feel, we wanted that gateway. And then part of that gateway in yellow, the building there would be locker rooms and restrooms. There's really the parking is mostly north of the fields, which is up by Cherry Street. So Cherry Street is kind of up to the upper left of the screen. Miller is to the kind of the lower part of the screen, lower left. And I just kind of lost my train of thought. So the parking, what I was getting at was that there'd be some parking off of Miller Street. And that parking really would be for grandparents or ADA accessibility so that we have good access to the seating. This would be just a close-up of the gateway, and to the right is the restroom and locker rooms. And really this gateway gives an opportunity for potentially some naming opportunities for the stadium itself. There's a couple of other images of, this is just a close-up of the dugouts with the press box in the background. You can see some potential branding on the backstop. To the right, it just illustrates how the backstop would be constructed. A lot of times there's chain link that has poles kind of in the way. This project would have netting that has the poles in the back, so it offers a little bit better view from the seating. This is just another example of how that would look. There'd be a concrete wall for backstop, padding with branding, press box with the bleachers. And then this is just an interior example of what the locker rooms would look like. And one of the things we wanted to do is just to try and take a look at different branding opportunities or how it might be laid out. So in this case, we'd have lockers on both sides, and then in the back where there's some branding back there that could potentially be like a whiteboard, chalkboard, so that coach could talk about strategy. So I think that's really about it.
As Rob mentioned, I'm John Minder, Associate Project Manager for this project. I'm just going to take you through the next 6 months or so here, looking towards the fall. So as Bill alluded to, they got their permit set at the beginning of this month into the city ahead of schedule. So we're looking at a roughly 4 to 5 week review period, expecting comments back from the city sometime next week or in the next 2 weeks. We will incorporate those into the bidding documents there. And that gets us to March. So once we get it out on the street, we will work with Corey and the board to find a good time to open the bids and then award the contract, first execute the contract, and then start construction there sometime in April. And then we're expecting a 4 to 5 month construction timeline. So that gets us near the end of August there. And as we've alluded to, the next steps, looking in the next 2 months or so, we're responding to comments from the city permit and incorporate those into the contract documents, investigate those promotional opportunities for the school district, like branding and so on with the field. And then next step would be advertise the project for bid. We're looking to get it out on the street, as Rob mentioned, next week, about 2.5 to 3 weeks on the street before we open bids, tentatively March 20th. And then execute the contract, award the contract, and break ground in April. I'll hand it back off to Rob to close this out.
As you guys can see, we hope you like what we've assembled, and we've done a lot of work in the last 6 or 7 weeks for sure. And if there's any questions, I'm here to answer.
I have a question now, as I, not after
Excellent.
the fact. So when I'm looking at slide 3 for the image, it looks really great. And then I had done a tour with Pioneer Middle School a couple weeks back, and we were talking about with the facilities with the softball field. As I'm looking over on the right-hand side, is that going to be gated off? So then that way, because just to avoid just other individuals walking through that may not be staff affiliated with students going through the school, is that going to be fenced off to where students know this is like part of the school property? Or are you intending to use that other field on the other side of the softball field as part of that facility for Pioneer to utilize?
No, I think that's just, first of all, to answer your question, yes, it's going to be fenced. And it's in the, we have a couple different layouts for fencing that's proposed in our documents. I think we just kind of put that together to show that they can still be utilized as a field for PE, and that's not necessarily going to be a football field. We understand from the athletic director and some of the initial people that we met with that was used as practice for football and maybe PE. And I know one of the items were safety, and so we do have a plan to fence that off. So to answer your question, yes. And I think we settle on a plan to come all the way around. We don't have that particular document, but we can certainly send it to you guys.
Is that also going to be around where Pioneer is? That's on the right-hand side on that little open speck of the field right there by the tree.
Yes.
Is that going to be gated
Oh,
off?
all the way back to the tree?
Yeah.
No.
That's part of the Pioneer school.
Yeah, we're
itself right there.
we're going down just around the field itself.
Okay.
And it's coming up to our, it's going to go through and come through the locker room. I believe it goes up to the locker room. Well, yeah.
Okay.
We didn't really look at gates on the entrance just because we wanted to have a feel. All the fence around the field itself is going to be locked, but still you're able to go and walk around. But I know we're going to have do we have a gate? We have a gate proposed by the entrance to the parking lot, so it can be closed during non-use hours. But we certainly can send you those kind of pages so you can take a look at just for your own recollection of what we're doing. Anybody else?
No, I'm excited. And I'm counting on that August ribbon cutting.
We need volume along the school. We need that. We need along the school. I don't need that, might be guys, but not me.
So that's where we're at.
Okay.
And if you guys got any questions, feel free to email us and we'll send you the updated little documents for reference tonight as well.
I guess I do have questions. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So you're talking about the descriptions of the potential, the possibility of, say, branding or naming. Is it fairly common in K-12 or in, school districts to have naming rights for with monetary But the monetary,
Compensation.
yes, yeah.
It is. All the ones I've built in the past. It's the booster club that come up with it. And sometimes it's we're in conjunction with the school because you have to do what's right. You have to have a, was it 301, 401(c)(3). So that booster club usually sets that up. And there's many opportunities for to be able to get that for the kids, for travel expenses, for maybe new uniforms. And there's lots of opportunities. I think there's going to be some branding on the scoreboard, for instance. I think you guys are working with somebody, so that I'm sure that is getting closer and closer, but there's several different ways to do it, and we will present all those to you, and you guys can kind of choose and kind of run from there. You got a great communication director that's out there beating the streets for everybody, and so it's going to be exciting to see.
Great, thank you.
Everybody good? All right. Well, we'll keep you guys apprised of our next steps. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, John. Appreciate you all traveling over today for the presentation.
Thank you, and safe travels back. I don't know what the passes look like today. So next up is a discussion. We have policies up for a first read.
Yes, we have our first read on 5 policies for tonight. And so the first one, thank you. First one is 6513. The WASDA revised this policy and procedure based on House Bill 1533. So there is some strong language in this policy about not tolerating workplace violence, about the idea of prevention. There's some strong language around domestic violence and harassment as well. There are some added language, survivor language, and ability for the district to exempt their names in public record. Regardless of the Family and Medical Leave Act in this policy, that it does allow the district to give appropriate support. So as the board policy committee met, there was not a ton of discussion here, but we did address moving this one forward, the workplace violence policy 6513. Unless Miranda, if you wanted to add anything else to that.
No, everything looked pretty good and very standard language right there. So.
All right. Any comments from the board? Okay. The second policy is 2090. And so WASDA reviewed and revised this policy after receiving some questions about the current policy. This policy had not been reviewed or updated in 12 years. And so the legal platform is still relevant on this policy. And the idea here is ensuring students learn grade level academic requirements in all areas, including non-tested areas. And that's very important. The Wenatchee School District does a good job in this area and has worked hard through our PLC at Work process and the work of building a guaranteed and viable curriculum with grade level standards for all students. Let's see, the policy was, like I said, last revised in 2012. As WASDA has stated, the policy still remains relevant through these updates.
I don't have any comment, but this is just a reminder for our audience or just our board. This policy specifically states that just like curriculum, any of the assessment material is available to the community or anyone that wishes to review it. And that this policy specifically states that.
Yes, good point. And there's links on our website to address that as well. So thanks, Maria. Other thoughts or questions from the board? Okay. Policy 5280, separation from employment. WASDA has revised this policy to clarify the board's role in the process of release of employment. So the policy has added strength around the language of probable cause and language around the process of release of employment. removal of probation, non-removal, and termination language from the end of the policy, and it was moved more succinctly up to the beginning of the policy. There's also a new section on classified staff, and then following the process of recommendation to the Board of Directors on termination and release of employment. Just to summarize that policy. Okay, anything to add? Okay. All right, policy, policy 5005, employment and volunteers. So WASDA reviewed this and revised the model policy based on Senate Bill 5123. And this law prohibits employers from discriminating against hiring or retaining an employee based on positive drug test. So there was also changes to a section in this on child support and changes to the RCWs that are listed for reference here. There's a new section on pre-employment drug testing, and our discussion was brief and talked about moving this one forward. Okay. All right, and the next one, policy 6530. This is on insurance. WASDA has revised the model policy to track better with RCW 28A 400-350 and added language from the House Bill 1521, which has workers' compensation claims. And many of the statements in this policy are added in strength. A lot of shalls are moved to wills. So the district shall, and it reads now the district will, and it updates our providers' information for insurance, and there's some updates on the medical insurance section. We also moved this one forward. Okay. All right, looks good. So we will move that to second read next time, March 12th.
So I'm on the wrong agenda. So it looks like next up is action items, and we have the policies up for second read.
Yeah, and I'll add here really quick. We did remove policy 5050 for this second read because we discussed it last time on February 13th, and we will add that to the second read. So that only leaves policy 2190 and 2413 for this week's second read and vote.
There's nothing more to add. Do I have a motion to approve the policies?
I make a motion to approve these policies for the second read.
Is there a second?
Second.
So it's been moved by Miranda, seconded by Tucker. Do I have any discussion? Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? No. Motion carries. Next up, superintendent's report.
Don't know if she's still here, but just want to thank our certificated interpreters from CAFE for joining us tonight and help support our monolingual Spanish community members. We want to ensure the voices of our community members are heard, and we'll have CAFE joining us at our board meetings and public hearings moving forward. So thank you if they're still around. It doesn't look like they're still here. Also wanted to share with the board that last week, as you all know, was the Janice Franz Talent Show. And we had board members there all 3 nights. Tucker and I were at the Wednesday performance, and I try to go every year as I remember this annual event very well. I remember the first one and enjoyed Janice very much as a colleague. When I taught at Wenatchee High School and as assistant principal, I was often able to perform in the show with my students. And the show we saw on Wednesday had 10 great acts, and the talent was incredible. And this year's recipient of the fundraiser is Wenatchee High School sophomore Johnny Ponce. who was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in May of 2023 and is currently undergoing chemotherapy weekly in Seattle. Another update that we got was the girls volleyball team at the Capitol. You may have seen that in the weekly. And it was pretty cool. So the Wenatchee High School girls volleyball championship team visited the state capitol, supporting the team head coach Jordan McGregor Hansen, athletic director Jim Beeson, and some WIAA representatives. The girls were able to meet with their 12th district legislators, tour the Capitol, present Governor Inslee with a signed volleyball, and were honored in the Senate gallery with the passage of Resolution 8651. And Senator Hawkins said, "These young ladies are superstars on and off the court." He was happy to show them his full support by inviting them to the Capitol and making their visit as special as possible. They had a great time together. Let's see, we had our boys swim and dive team traveled to state a couple weekends ago in Federal Way for an overall 17th place finish. Special congratulations to sophomore Aiden Grigsby for his individual state championship in the 100 freestyle and 7th place in the 100 backstroke. Snow science field experiences last month. All Wenatchee School District 7th and 8th grade students had an opportunity to visit School Chuck State Park to spend a day in the snow as part of our district-wide science and CTE field experience. I happened to be at Foothills on the day that they were gearing up and getting their snow gear on and getting their boots ready. But students spent the entire day on a mountain engaging in educational activities related to science, math, history, writing, and communication. They also learned about several career fields such as forestry, avalanche rescue, avalanche forecasting, highway safety, and snow sampling and data collection. And we're heading into spring, so it's a good thing. But as we head into spring, we have busy sports schedules and field trip season, and we're looking to add some new bus drivers or bus driver substitutes to our team. So as you know, driver recruitment is year-round activity to ensure our students get to and from school and activities safely. Transportation will be holding a recruitment event on Saturday, March 9th from 9 to noon, at the Transportation Department next to Wenatchee High School. Attendees can meet the team, learn about the training process, and even drive a bus to get a feel for what it's like behind the wheel. Also just wanted to let the board know that you may have seen a wonderful article in the Wenatchee World on the Wenatchee Valley Community Transitions Program. So if you get a minute to take a look at that, it's titled Wenatchee Valley Community Transitions Connect Students with Disabilities to the Workforce. It's a good read. So thank you.
Next up, board communication. I'll start at this end maybe this time.
I have got one event to plug that hasn't started yet. On the 1st of March, we have the annual Regional Art Show at the museum, which is one of the finest things you can ever see. And I was lucky enough to watch one of the pieces of work that's going to be on display there be finished by a freshman actually in the high school. And so it unfolds. So I definitely will be going, and it double teams with the Beauty of Bronze exhibit for 5th graders, which is not just Wenatchee, it involves Ephrata and a number of other schools. And those are splendid opportunities to see really good work done in a different field. So it's on from the 1st of March till sometime about the first week in April. If you get a chance, go.
Miranda?
Martin and I got to participate in the talent show on Thursday, right? Thursday, yeah. And I'm gonna, just good work. The ASB students did a good job organizing the event, and the performers were excellent. So good job.
I will just share with the board, since we've been getting a lot of emails, various communications about the school closure as we expect, and all questions are getting forwarded to the district staff and whatnot. The board is asking a lot of the same questions. I know we can't exchange emails and whatnot related to the topics. So I just kind of wanted especially because it was suggested that I've somehow summarily shut down a request for advisory council. So I just want to share, and I talked to Corey about this too. I wanted to share my response to you guys in case it's something we want to talk about a little bit further. But one of my responses was to the parent group that requested the advisory committee. I first basically said that I want to ensure that the district is following the state law and district policy regarding consolidation or closure of the school. The district is holding more than the minimum required hearings and soliciting parent and stakeholder feedback for the entire 90-day process. There is no requirement to form an advisory group, but we continue to welcome the comments and feedback from the various parent and citizen advocacy groups that have spontaneously formed during the process. Although there is not a current plan to form a parent or stakeholder advisory group related to the closure, I've confirmed with the superintendent that there is an intention to add stakeholders to the facility committee that will not only address building conditions and plans related to potential future bonds, but will also discuss facilities in relation to budget conditions, including future needs to repurpose or further consolidate resources. So that was just to give us a sense. I did look to see if we had any policy as part of this closure process before responding to confirm whether we did or did not. And we do not strictly have a policy. It would be up to ourselves if we wanted to, at some point, have any citizen advisory groups. But my understanding so far is that's not been expressed by the district so far as part of the process. But I think we're always soliciting feedback and taking seriously all the feedback that the community is providing us. And then in just relation to other emails we've received regarding requesting budget details, I've responded that the budget information in the plan includes, in the written analysis, includes the line item budget details related specifically to the closure. However, per the board's request, the district is putting together additional line item details with the cost of alternate options for presentation at an upcoming board meeting. So just further letting them know that we are continuing the conversations with getting budgets, showing options, things of that nature. So I just wanted to share that with you all since we can't all be part of email chains and whatnot. So we are taking all the comments seriously, and you all may be individually responding as well, but I just wanted to make sure you are aware of that. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. Otherwise, yeah.
I appreciate that, Julie. And as you were sharing that, I know the public has a lot of you guys have shared your comments, your opinions, your questions. And I would like to suggest that anything that we hear, say at public comments that can be answered, obviously we don't respond to public comments, but can we add to the Q&A form as we go through board meetings and we hear new questions being popped up? I think, it just doesn't feel very friendly not being able to respond, but that's our process and that's how our meeting is ran. But I think, just know that you are being heard. We are listening. We are, because oftentimes multiple people have the same questions. We have similar questions as well. And to have them all into a repository, as we go, if something gets asked, that's appropriate to address, I think it would be value to add that to it. And then also, we get multiple emails a day at about 8:15 to evaluate the qualifications of an applicant for public employment, to review the performance of a staff member, or to receive and evaluate complaints or charges brought against a director or staff member. Pursuant to District Policy 1410 and RCW 4230-110, this discussion will be closed to the public. The school board is not expected to take final action following the executive session. So feel free to stick around, but you don't have to.
The board will be extending executive session for an additional 30 minutes to 8:45 PM. The board will be meeting for 15 more minutes in executive session until 9 p.m. The board meeting is now adjourned.